Everybody, it is 12 o'clock, so we are going to get started with our thermal imaging webinar, and I'm going to start by sharing my screen and making sure we have Tom. Hey Tom, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Can you see my screen? I got a fun kid on it.
I can.
Awesome. All right. Realtors who are joining us, thank you for coming and making your clients' lives better, is what I think that you're doing here. If you have questions, put them in the Q&A and Tom will answer them at the end. This is going to sound mostly like a conversation between me and Tom with some pictures so that you can follow along. I'm Melanie from Home Probe, the home inspection company. I handle our education department and also our realtor marketing. And so I spend a lot of time with real estate agents, and I manage our client services department. And so I talk to clients a lot too. So I have more of the realtor and consumer mind set. And then Tom is the one that actually does our work. And so Tom thinks like an inspector. And so we're going to marry those minds together so that he can tell us the things that we don't know. And I can ask him the things that he might not be thinking about. So with that, I'm going to talk about the first thing that I've noticed is that the thing that I'm selling are inspection reports. Nobody wants. So nobody, if I said, listen, I can send you a 30 to 90 page report of all the things in the house and the technical condition of them, people would be like, no, thank you. Nobody wants more things to read and more things to process. What they do want is a house that they can move in and not have something like this happen. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. Thermal imaging is the pretty colors that we get to see on inspection reports. It's an additional service that we offer, and it uses technology that Tom's going to explain to us. And it doesn't have as many of the big dramatic pictures because it's preventing problems. It's preventing water from creating a problem like this. And so that's what Tom is going to talk about today, how the little tiny spots we see in thermal imaging can grow to be big issues later. So Tom, what are we looking for in thermal imaging?
Thermal imaging, what we're really looking for is moisture issues. Thermal imaging has a 1,000 different uses out in the real world, but we're only using it in the capacity of looking for potential water issues, penetrations, leaks, that sort of thing in our homes that we inspect.
Okay. And why do we care about leaks? Just remind us.
Well, we need water to live and survive, but at the same time, it's trying to kill us and destroy our homes in the process. So, water management is huge. We've got to keep it away from the houses, and when it is in the house, we have to keep it contained.
All right. It's funny because I teach classes on Atlanta history. And so the number one enemy to houses in the early 1900s was fire. And that we've gotten fire pretty well contained. So if you were to say the number one enemy to houses today,
it's definitely moisture. It's definitely water. Water is a continuous repeating theme in our home inspections and going into our thermal inspections as well. Yep, absolutely.
All right. So speaking of a home inspection, don't we find water issues? Didn't we find it before we started offering thermal imaging? Didn't we see leaks?
Oh, sure. We see leaks, but by the time we see the leak, it's too late. The leak has been leaking it could be for years before it actually has leaked enough to leak its way through, old time plaster or, modern drywall and start to make stains in the ceilings and damage the wood that we would see. But it's been going on for a long, long time before we actually are able to see it. That's the issue. That's the problem.
Okay. So are you able to see behind the walls with thermal imaging?
Yes and no. We can't really see behind the wall. It doesn't really see through items. But what it does see is without getting too technical and scary, it's the thermal imaging sees the evaporation of the water, which gives off a specific temperature signature. What we're looking for. to put it as simply as I can.
All right. So our fee is $265 for thermal imaging. It's a flat fee. So you could have a condo or you could have a large luxury home, and we charge a flat fee for the thermal imaging scan. Tell us a little bit about why it's worth the investment, Tom.
Well, the average cost to repair a leak, and this research was done a few years ago, is about $2,000 for an average leak. I used to do insurance inspections before I got into full-blown home inspections. I was the guy that would go out after a leak was done, after a leak was repaired, and I had to confirm that the work was done, finished, all the finish, painting and everything put back together right before the insurance company would pay off. Everyone had a horror story. Everyone had an issue of $40, $50, $60,000 insurance claim because there was a leak behind the tub that they didn't see for several years, and it grew into mold and just chain reaction, and worst case scenario happened for them. So it's definitely, again, the national average is about $3,000 based on this website that we found. And again, these statistics are a few years old, so add the price of the inflated price of building materials right now, that it's could probably double.
Right. Plus, whenever I've experienced water issues a couple of times in the homes that I've purchased, it becomes like whenever there's a problem with the water, it's like you got to tear everything out. And we've never had to move out of the house, but I've heard people sometimes have to leave the house.
Oh, absolutely. That goes along with a horror story. They tend to, if it's a major renovation, what they will do is they will literally pack up everything you own in your house into pods, storage units, send them somewhere. You end up going to a hotel for several weeks while the contractors come in and rip out floors and walls and ceilings and structure and rebuild it all. And put it back together. In the meantime, you're stuck in the middle fighting with your insurance company, your mortgage company, and the contractors that are not working as fast as they should be, trying to
All right.
fix and repair.
So that's why so that's what's so great about this technology, is that we're able to see things before they have the chance to do all of that damage. I like to compare it a little bit to like an MRI for a house. Like you go to the doctor to have a checkup and they can check some things. But if you really want to see something before it presents problems, you need more intensive technology. So let's talk a little bit more about the technology. Tell us about your camera, Tom, and how we chose it and what the technology is like.
The camera, we went with the top of the line FLIR. FLIR is an acronym, forward looking infrared. Doesn't really mean a lot to you and I, but it's the technology behind the camera of how it works and how it measures the temperatures that we're looking for.
And so here is Elvira, the company mascot for thermal. Tell us about what we're seeing on her with the thermal imaging camera.
Looking at Elvira, the brighter colors, the white in this case is the hot. If you look at the scale on the right side of the imaging screen there, the white is the hottest and the purple is the darkest, or is the coldest rather. So around her eyes and snout and underbelly where there's no fur, that's where she is giving off her body heat.
We can't hear you anymore. All right, I think Tom might be frozen. I will continue the conversation a little bit. One of the places that you may know this technology from, are you back, Tom?
I'm back.
All right, tell us about where this technology, how we might, in popular culture, those who don't know Elvira might know of the thermal imaging technology.
Okay, when I went to the training school for thermal imaging, when I got my certification, one of the things that our class looked at was the the Boston Marathon bombing incident. When they were looking for the suspects, they used thermal imaging to find him. And as many of you probably remember, one of the brothers was found hidden in a covered boat. And this is an actual photo from that footage that was able to detect him in the boat. That's how they knew he was there. They had seen the ladder and was able to
Oh,
detect,
okay.
yeah, that's how he got in.
All right. So let's talk about how thermal imaging shows us water stains. And I think it starts with heat.
It does. Everything has a temperature signature to it. Our hands, if we touch a wall and remove our hands from the wall, it will leave behind that footprint, so to speak.
See? Handprint. There's Tom's hand, even though we can't see it on the wall anymore.
There you go. And it doesn't take long for that temperature to transfer from one surface to another. So we're able to see that with the thermal imaging camera.
Okay. So in a house, like walk us through this house. How are we, what does the heat look like?
Well, again, the red and the white is the hottest points of the house. So, at the peak of the house where where the heat rises up into the attic and up to the chimney, everything is the hottest at that point. On the exterior, the gutters and the pillars are the coldest. They're the furthest away from the heated part of the house. If you notice the windows, the top of the windows are red and the bottom of the windows are blue, which indicates that, again, heat is rising in the room, so that the upper half of the room is much warmer than the lower half of the room.
Interesting. It's fun to see that. All right. So when we're doing thermal imaging, we're looking for leaks. Where do we scan?
Everything. We start at ceilings, especially ceilings below roof structures. So we're looking for any potential roof leak, flashing leak, leaks around, penetrations in the roof, chimneys, vents, that type of thing.
Okay, let's look at, we have this really great example of what we're looking, quote unquote, for as we look for leaks. So this is a picture of the area. There's nothing visible, it doesn't look like, with the naked eye here.
Right. This is a chimney, where a chimney is on the back side of that wall, on the outside of the wall. And by looking at it as we normally would through a home inspection, everything looked good. No stains, no discoloration, no damage. But then when we looked at it with a thermal.
Oh, Tom's cutting out again. When we looked at it with our thermal imaging, we were able to see a spot. I can't hear you, Tom. I'm sorry. We were able to see a spot. And that tells us that there is potentially water intrusion.
Right. As water evaporates, it gives us that darker color. Yep.
Very good. All right. So you're looking at ceilings below the roof structures. What about where else can water come in?
Well, any penetration through the side of the house, any windows, doors, skylights, anything like that.
Okay.
Below water fixtures, sinks, drains, below the bathrooms, below the kitchens.
Okay, so anywhere water was running, we're looking at the surface below. We're looking at through the surface, essentially below that, to see if the water, if those pipes are leaking.
Yep, exactly.
Why do we do around toilets and tubs?
Well, toilets, you see in inspection reports, loose toilets all the time. That's almost a given in about every inspection we do. And the water can and will and usually does leak if that seal has been compromised and that toilet is loose. The seal is broken and water can come out. Same thing around the caulking around the tub, or maybe even just poor use of the
All right, Tom's frozen again. The last place we look well, not the last, but one of the other places that we look is the foundation walls. So basements are prone to water intrusion in the South, right, Tom?
Absolutely. Anytime you dig a hole in the ground, it's going to fill up with water, and a basement is just a giant hole in the ground. So nature is going to bring water into it. So again, water management is important, and we need to look on the inside to see if there's anything we need to do on the outside.
All right. What about the HVAC? Why is there a picture of that here?
Well, condensation, because as the air conditioner works, it removes the condensation, removes the humidity from the room. It gets pumped out, and if that pump is leaking or is not working properly, then again, it's a water possible water issue. So we need to look for that. And then the sump pumps and the ejector pumps. Again, a lot of water goes through those, and quite often we see a minor leak that has not been detected yet through visual inspection.
Okay, so I remember reading that the thermal imaging camera can see water so small it can't be felt with the touch or seen with the naked eye.
Right. Again, as water evaporates, it leaves behind a cold temperature signature. So we're really looking for temperature changes. It's not detecting actual water or actual moisture. It's detecting the temperature signature, the difference in temperature where it normally should not be. So we're trained to look for those anomalies, those changes that they shouldn't be there.
Okay, I stand corrected. Thank you. Which makes sense. When we go back to this picture, there's water in these jugs, right? And it doesn't show up. So it's not water we're seeing, it's the water evaporating. Is that the better?
Yep.
And we're seeing the handprint of the water evaporating.
Exactly.
All right. Tell us what do we find? I think this is one of our fun finds.
This one, we noticed that the water temperature was almost 80 degrees in the tank in the toilet bowl, which led to we realized that the plumber had hooked up the hot water line to the toilet instead of the cold water line to the toilet. So they were wasting a lot of hot water going right down the drain.
Hot seat. All right. We find sometimes anomalies in the foundation.
Yep. Again, where the moisture is moving through between the joints, between the rocks in this case, they are migrating into the basement. So we need some water management on the outside. Here's a classic example that the basement wall had been patched and painted. You can see the paint on the left photo there. Yep. And then when we looked at it with a thermal imaging, we can see that the moisture is still continuing to come through. The darker purple is indicative of the evaporation process.
Okay, so we used to just go, oh, it's not usual that people paint their unfinished basements, but now we can see a little bit better about why maybe they painted it. This one was one in the dining room below the primary bathroom. I think this one was one from January that you found.
Yep. And there was, again, no visual indication that there was anything wrong. Until we saw this, anomaly. And then we used our moisture meter, and our moisture meter is always a smoking gun. That's the one that really tells us that there's moisture there. We can have anomalies from leaking air conditioner duct lines and other things can leave cold anomalies, but not all anomalies are wet. So we always confirm that that the anomaly is wet, that it is a moisture issue instead of just an air infiltration issue somewhere. So when I checked this one with our moisture meter, sure enough, the moisture was quite high.
Okay, so the process is you do the scan, you run all the water in the home inspection.
Yep.
Then you scan.
Right. Then as the water moves its way through all the plumbing, and potentially through out the plumbing, from the leaks, then we're able to detect that water as it is evaporating.
And then when you find potential anomalies, not all anomalies go in the report. When you find potential anomalies, what's the next step?
Right. The next step is using our moisture meter and confirming that, yes, it is moisture. It is not just an air issue, an insulation or, air infiltration somewhere.
Okay. So I call these photos that we've just been seeing good to know news. Like, it's not necessarily good news, but people definitely want to know it. There's another, this one I remember the agent actually told me this was his personal home that he was purchasing. And it was one of I think it might be our first anomaly that we found.
It was the first anomaly, his most exciting anomaly. It was the first one. And when we first started talking about this a couple of years ago, I thought this was, it's really cool technology. We'll probably find something every once in a while, and it's probably worth investigating, and it's worth putting in our toolbox. And then I find this one right off the bat, and then we find more and more that there was no way we would have ever seen those just with our eyes. Just like the one a few minutes ago with the dining room ceiling, we would have never seen it. And now that this happened to have been a patch and a repair in the laundry room below the master bathroom, which they had disclosed that they had fixed the toilet a couple of years ago because it was leaking. Well, come to find out, it was still leaking. The patch didn't take, or they didn't repair it properly, and it was continuing to leak unbeknownst to anyone.
Awesome. Well, not awesome. Awesome to know.
Right.
So here's a picture of you using the moisture meter to confirm
Yep.
the hidden leak.
This one was interesting. This was a condo. So even though the leak was not in our unit that we were inspecting, we did notice that the bathroom in the unit above this condo was having a leak in the toilet or shower. And again, no one had noticed it because it wasn't bad enough yet to actually start leaking and staining through the paint in the ceiling in the unit that we were inspecting. So we was able to, get a hold of the owner above and let them know that they had a leak that needed to be repaired.
Yeah, and my understanding is that every homeowners association might be a little bit different in terms of what the potential buyer is owning. Yes. In terms of like, are you in charge of fixing the drywall in that case?
Yep. And here's a skylight. Again, it looked good looking up through the porthole there. Everything looked good visually, but when I scanned it with the thermal imaging, sure enough, there was a leak.
And I was actually with you when you saw this one. So this is too tall to get a moisture meter out for.
That is true. So there are some circumstances where we just can't reach it. It's not safe. We're not able to get a ladder up in those small, alcoves where the skylights are. So there are some that we can't confirm, but we try our best whenever it's possible and safe to reach.
All right, tell us about this one.
This one we found yesterday, and I got all excited about it because, as you can see, there's just a little spot about the size of a dime, maybe a nickel, that Harry had noticed in the under the sink. And then when he got the thermal camera out and took a picture, he realized how widespread this is. This goes, probably close to 2 square feet of cabinet base is saturated. Well, maybe not saturated, but it's definitely got some water issues and absorbed that moisture from that ongoing leak. So what we would have probably passed off as, well, there's a minor leak, you just need to tighten up some connections. Now we realize, no, this is much greater, and you may end up having to replace that whole cabinet base. Okay.
Sometimes I think we can confirm this is like one of the few places in the inspection where we see good news. So sometimes we'll see a water stain, and we used to just say, or if we're not doing thermal imaging, what's our recommendation on a water stain?
Recommendation is we saw a stain and we couldn't reach it, so keep an eye on it. It's the best we
keep
can
an
do.
eye on it. Ask the seller. Like, we don't know. Right. Essentially, we know water was there, but we don't know if it still is. Right. In this case, we were able to confirm this same area that there were no issues.
Absolutely. We went back with a thermal camera and looked at that stain, and again, everything is a nice even color across the whole photo. So we're pretty confident that there's no ongoing moisture issues there. It's just a stain that they had not painted the ceiling yet since it was fixed.
Okay. So, and how do we see those? So tell me about when you're doing an inspection and you know there's going to be a thermal imaging as part of that inspection, and you see a water spot like this, oops, a water stain like this, what do you do?
Well, we carry the camera with us. So when we're doing when we have a thermal imaging inspection, during the course of the regular home inspection, we carry the camera with us. So as soon as we see an issue like this, we document it just like we normally would in the home inspection. And then we immediately take a picture of it with the thermal imaging camera to confirm yes, no, or maybe that there is some moisture that was detected. And then it would go into the report as complementary, supplementary photos, confirming, or either way, confirming that it's dry or confirming that there was a moisture issue.
Okay, so it's like one more piece of information we can give someone.
Yep.
Speaking of which, let's talk about the report. They right now they get a separate report the next day. Where do the thermal issues show up in the report?
The anomalies are going to show up at the top of the thermal report, and they're either going to be in the structure system tab, plumbing, or interior system tabs, just as if it would in the regular inspection report. So if there's a leak in the foundation, you're going to find it in the structure tab. If there's a plumbing leak, it would be in the plumbing section. So we try to keep it as consistent as we can.
Okay. And then we also have pictures in the thermal imaging section. What are they?
Right. So these are what's the word I'm looking for? Oh gosh, I'm drawing them blank, Mel. Help me out here.
Like representative
photos, yes, because we take pictures, or we scan every ceiling under the roof. And we take a couple of pictures as representative, just so you got a good idea of what we're looking at. We scan every window. We put a couple of representative photos of the windows and doors in the report. Again, just so you know what we're looking at, and so on and so forth through the inspection.
All right. So the way that I look at thermal imaging is we have technology to help buyers know something that they don't currently know. And so that's why I want every client to get to decide whether they want the thermal imaging or whether they don't want thermal imaging. Tell me about why, we just talked about why it's important in a basement when you fill a hole, when you dig a hole, water fills it. What about slabs and crawl spaces? Is thermal imaging helpful on those types of foundations?
Absolutely. I mean, any dwelling needs a thermal imaging inspection, in my opinion, because we never know where that water is going to be coming from. In a slab, we get in older slabs, older homes with the polybutylene plumbing, which is definitely prone to leaking. We can see it coming through potentially we can see it. Where it comes through the slab, see where that leak is starting to show itself, but maybe not again bad enough that it's actually causing any kind of staining or water pooling. Any types of cracks in the foundation can absorb water up. It'll wick the water up into the slab potentially. So any kind of cracks like that we can see sometimes.
All right. And we already showed the example about condos, how we're able to see more. So I'm going to toot Tom's horn a little bit and talk about why it matters who does your thermal imaging. And thermal imaging has existed as a technology before HomeProbe adopted it. And we chose not to adopt it until we could be the best, until we could produce reliable, repeatable standards that you expect from us in our home inspection. And so in Georgia and in South Carolina, there is no licensing for thermal imaging. So in Georgia, there's no licensing for home inspection either. And so anybody can buy the thermal imaging camera. Tom, tell us a little bit about your training.
Right. So, these cameras are available on Amazon. So like you said, anybody can buy these cameras and wave them around, but it's knowing what you're looking at and what we're supposed to be looking for. So I went through a week-long class in South Carolina, where I learned way more information that I ever wanted to know about thermal imaging. To really understand the subtle differences in the pictures that we're looking at, the screen that we're looking at, to determine if that's, if again, is that a water issue? Is that a air infiltration somewhere? So we need to
All right,
decipher.
we'll show a couple of examples of those. So I think that having a thermal imaging camera is a little bit like having a scalpel and calling yourself a surgeon if you haven't been through proper training. So you are a level 1 certified thermographer, which is a mouthful. There you are in my crawl space. So let's talk about some examples of things that don't make the report, because you are thinking about the anomaly, not just capturing it.
Right. So this one was fun. At first, I thought there was a flashing leak or a vent or something that was leaking a lot of water in the bathroom there. And when I got closer to it, and I realized that the air conditioner unit is outside, and that was just the Freon line going up through the wall up into the attic, giving off that cold signature. So in this case, it is an anomaly. It's not supposed to be there, but it's dry. It is just the coldness from the Freon lines that was bleeding through into the bathroom wall.
All right, Freon's doing its job actually there. So what about this one?
Again, this one, at first I thought we had a flashing issue around this arched window, which is very common. I believe this was a eaves stucco home. So I thought, oh, we've got a pretty bad leak out here. And then I started looking around a little bit more, and I realized, no, this is just I had the air conditioner on. It was in the summertime, so I had the air conditioner on, and it's just blowing onto the wall, leaving a cold signature. Again, anomaly, but it's from the air conditioner vent, not exterior water moisture penetration.
So I think it's just really important to remind everyone that we don't want to put something in a report to cause an issue in a transaction that isn't an issue, which is also why we don't use thermal imaging for energy efficiency. So if there's like a little piece of insulation missing, it's a lot, the cost to cure is a lot more, is a lot higher than the cost of living with it. And so that's why we're using it for a true enemy of the house, which is leaks. So Tom, remind us what we get from thermal imaging.
Well, it definitely gives us another set of eyes, another way of looking at surfaces to determine if there's potentially any type of moisture issue. Again, going back to the moisture meter, that's always a smoking gun, but we could be poking blindly with that moisture meter, trying to find where the moisture is, where the thermal camera can pinpoint exactly where we need to look at and point that moisture meter to determine if there's a moisture issue there or not.
So we're really helping our clients do the thing that they want the most, which is avoid surprises. So we do not currently include thermal imaging with every inspection. We'll ask the agent when you book the inspection if you know if your client wants thermal imaging, and then we will ask your client as well. And we are seeing almost a third of our clients choosing to include thermal imaging as part of their home inspection. I think part of it is when you're paying this much for a house, you want to know a lot more about it. And this is really, truly a product that will help that person as a home buyer, as a home owner, not just as a home buyer. So even if the sellers aren't willing to negotiate anything, if you can find a leak before it has the chance to do years worth of damage, creating issues all along the way, it's a better, it's a win for everybody. We're able to pinpoint where those leaks are, and people can get them fixed at a much reduced price. So if you want to know the best way to book an inspection, however you like to book your inspections, you can go online to home-probe.com. You can email us, you can text us, and you can call us. We are always happy to help your clients. And thank you so much, Tom, for sharing all of your smarts, for going to that training so we don't have to, and for taking really good care of our clients. To all the realtors who joined us today, go make real estate better. Thank you.